watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Amy. And I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, Red Cross says Syria in civil war as fighting spreads in Damascus. And Annan in Russia as U.S. calls for a new Security Council pressure on Syria. And Clinton meets with top leaders, faces protests in Egypt visit. And Obama chides Romney on outsourcing. And Green Party nominates physician activist Jill Stein. And banks face a U.S. probe over labor manipulation. And record-setting drought threatens crops in the Midwest. And FDA spied on scientists who warned of radiation dangers. And Justice Department Florida reach deal to continue voter purge. Well, both of them did. New York judge, activist Gustin Reichbach dies at 65. GVTV News is broadcast from Grass Valley Television, division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement, and we also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Today's first world news story, Syrian capital of Damascus has seen some of its heaviest fighting to date since uprising against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad erupted over a year ago. Heavy weaponry, including tanks and mortar fire, has reportedly been seen used in areas in the city's south. Intensified clashes were prompted by the International Committee of the Red Cross to join the United Nations in describing the conflict in Syria as a civil war. Red Cross had previously kept its assessment to a handful of flashpoint areas, but now says violence is nationwide. UN Observer Mission has confirmed heavy weaponry was used last week in the village of Tremsa, where pro-Assad forces were accused of massacring more than 100 civilians. UN spokesperson Sasan Gashe announced the Observer's findings earlier the other day and said, in this attack there were use of heavy weapons on population centers. Our observation confirmed use of direct and indirect weapons, including artillery, mortar shells, and small arms. Count of 27 eyewitnesses that we interviewed, the consistent account on all indicated that the attack started at 5 o'clock in the morning by shelling and then ground forces went in. The Assad regime has denied carrying out the massacre at Tremsa, claiming it killed anti-government rebels. The UN Arab League peace envoy Kofi Annan is headed to Moscow for talks with new Security Council response to ongoing violence in Syria. Speaking during a visit in Lebanon, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State William Burns called for a new pressure on the Assad regime and said, we need to act now through a new UN Security Council resolution in New York, which carries consequences for the Syrian regime's continue and violent non-compliance with the obligation. It is long past time to begin a democratic transition to a post-Assad Syria. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was wrapped up her first visit to Egypt since the election, and Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi with President Mohamed Morsi last month. Over the weekend, Clinton held separate talks with Morsi and head of Egypt's Supreme Council in the Armed Forces, Hussein Tantawa. Clinton said that Egypt should support the country's democratic transition. Said democracy is hard. We have been at this for more than 236 years, and it requires dialogue and compromise in real politics. So we want to be helpful, but we know that it is not for the United States to decide. It is for the Egyptian people to decide. Clinton faces a number of protests during her visit, with memories still fresh in her public support for ousted Egyptian leader Hosni Mubarak. When the uprising broke out last year, Clinton's motorcade was pelted with projectiles as they headed to the city Alexandria on Saturday. In Cairo, former Guantanamo Bay prisoner Sami Abdul Aziz took part in a protest against Clinton and said, "The Americans had imprisoned me at Guantanamo for 4 years. They completely tortured me and destroyed me. The military court deemed me innocent of their accusations. I have rights to ask for after 4 years of torture." President Obama brought his re-election effort to the battleground state of Virginia over the weekend. With a series of events during his public remarks, Obama continued to focus on Romney's records at the helm of the private equity firm Bain Capital. And he said, "Mr. Romney got a different idea now. He invested in companies that have been called pioneers in outsourcing. I don't want pioneer in outsourcing. I want some insourcing. I want to bring companies back." Romney has faced new scrutiny following last week's revelation he remained Bain's top executive 3 years longer than he previously disclosed. Romney had maintained he left Bain in '99 to run the Winter Olympics in Utah, but financial disclosure showed he remained in control of Bain and earned a salary through 2002. The 3-year period in question saw Bain shuttering a number of U.S. companies, leading to layoffs and outsourcing of U.S. jobs. On Sunday, senior Romney advisor Ed Gillespie and Romney had retroactively retired from Bain in 2002, but had effectively stepped down 3 years earlier. Gillespie also defended Romney's record on outsourcing U.S. jobs and said, "What he believes is that American companies and private shareholders and CEOs should be free on our economy to make decisions. What we need to do is to make policies that make the decision easier to say, I'm going to invest here in the United States. I'm not going to move my jobs overseas. Obama policies are forcing jobs overseas." End quote. On Baltimore, the Green Party wrapped up its convention with a nomination of its presidential candidate, the physician and activist Jill Stein, and her running mate, the anti-poverty activist Sherry Honkala. Stein called her ticket a viable third-party challenge to corporate-beholden Republicans and Democrats and said, "I strongly agree that grassroots democracy grows from the local community up, but at the same time we think state of emergency, I think, at a national level, and its silence the only hope of an opposition voice in this election when so much is at stake. I think it would be a terrible loss for the American people. There's no reason why Americans should have to walk into the voting booth in November and have only effectively 2 Wall Street-sponsored choices." A number of major banks are facing at least 2 criminal probes in the United States over a major interest rate fixing scandal that has already led to fines against banking giant Barclays. Last month, Barclays was fined $453 million by U.S. and British authorities for manipulating the London Interbank Offered Rate, or LIBOR, which provides the basis for rates of trillions of dollars of transactions across the globe. Manipulation meant millions of borrowers paid the wrong amount on their loans. Justice Department has now confirmed its criminal division is putting together cases against several large firms and their staffers for taking part in the rate fixing. Meanwhile, the Attorney General of New York and Connecticut have announced they have been conducting a probe at the rate manipulation for the past 6 months. All told, a slew of civil and criminal cases could cost financial sectors tens of billions of dollars. Peanuts to them. Midwest continues to endure its worst drought in over a decade amid a spat of extreme weather nationwide. Government statistics show 63% U.S. land is suffering moderate to extreme drought. Corn producers in the Midwest are struggling to keep their crops from dying, and season initially had been expected to yield a record harvest. Department of Agriculture has deemed more than 1,000 countries in 26 states would be national disaster area, the highest such declaration ever. Farm Service Agency's head Philip Eyre warned of widespread devastation to crops in the Midwest, said we're approaching 1998 standards for drought. This is the main area of the United States and all the crops are growing: Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Nebraska. You know, we grow most of corn and soybeans in the United States, and this right here is a drought-centered where it's centered this time. We're all in Missouri, at least all D2 and D3, and we're approaching D3 and D2 areas, so it's very serious. New York Times has revealed U.S. Food and Drug Administration conducted extensive spying campaigns against its own scientists. The spying began after the scientists warned the FDA had faulty approved medical imaging devices that endangered patients with high levels of radiation. Spying operation led to the agency's monitoring the scientists' computers at work and home and copy emails and thumb drives, and even monitoring individual messages line by line as they were being controlled in real time. In a statement, National Whistleblower Center said the conduct by FDA managers designed to undermine a group of doctors and scientists who reportedly significant health and safety violations is deplorable. We hope that the revelations will mark a turning point in the battle to stop retaliatory surveillance of whistleblowers who risk their careers to report misconduct. Justice Department has dropped its efforts to halt Florida's controversial voter purge through the use of law enforcement database. The federal government had tried to stop Florida from using the database to challenge the right to vote of residents suspected of being non-U.S. citizens, but a Florida judge upheld the purge earlier this month. Under a deal with government officials, Florida will only be able to challenge voters who carry a number or identifier commonly assigned to foreign workers in the United States. The agreement will prevent Florida from obtaining info based solely on the name or birth date of a suspected non-citizen. New York judge and former political activist Gustin Reichbach has died at the age of 65 after a lengthy bout with cancer. Reichbach was a leading figure of Students for Democratic Society at Columbia University in the 60s. Before going on to become a New York State Supreme Court judge in Brooklyn, Reichbach helped lead the notorious '68 Columbia student strike, appeared in Democracy Now! And discussed the 40th anniversary. Reichbach reflected on historic protest. He had said, "There was some transcendent issues involved. We came together. Tom talked about the powerlessness the people felt and the powerlessness about being able to stop the war. Powerlessness in confronting the institution that had an incredible paternalistic, controlling aspect of it. So the party coming together, it's really a spontaneous coming together, as we thought in small way that we could be agents, or wanted to be agents, of course, in history. We shared the electric moment when collectively in our hearts that were touched by a certain passion and fire." May Reichbach wrote New York Times co-op-ed about medical marijuana helping him cope with the pain for his cancer treatment. And that's it for World News Today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the Rock and Roll Connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. John is an American. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and the pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from the Nevada County Law Enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Friday, 11:06 a.m. A report was taken that a vending machine was burglarized on the 300 block of Railroad Avenue. At 11:44 a.m., a report was taken for the theft of a catalytic converter from a car in 800 block of Forest Glade Circle. 12:04 p.m., a man was booked into jail on an outstanding warrant after a traffic stop on Old Tunnel Road. And 1:44 p.m., a report was made that someone had made threats to burn down some apartments from the 200 block of Sutton Way. 2:47 p.m., the hospital called to report a person moved from the jail to the hospital for evaluation was out of control and being restrained for possible 5150. 3:56 p.m., a report was taken on a suspicious young couple soliciting door-to-door to raise money for a trip, but they could not provide ID. And 4:49 p.m., a report was taken of two homeless men using bow and arrows, shooting arrows into the ground at 300 block of Brunswick Road. Contact was made, and the two Robin Hoods decided to move on. 5:45 p.m., a report of foul odor was coming from a dumpster in 1000 block of Plaza Drive. An investigation found possible deer innards. Yuck. 5:47 p.m., another report from a hospital. Possible 5150 patient was acting up again. 5:59 p.m., a report was taken. A 2-year-old child had woken in a car and no one that was there and was crying. A person in the store yelled at customers that left the child alone in the 100 block of Mill Street. 6:26 p.m., a report was taken. An accident with a Chevrolet truck and a telephone pole in South Auburn and Empire Street. And 7:10 p.m., another report was taken at the hospital that the 5150 patient in the hospital. Finally, police responded to transport the patient to evaluation. 7:11 p.m. a report was taken of a complaint of young people knocking on doors for a contest, and one of them seemed around 18 years old. 8:22 p.m. a report was taken that a transient was sleeping in Love Building at Condon Park. Contact was made and the sleeper was moving on. 11:07 p.m. a report was taken the threats of killing people was made in emergency room at the hospital. When contacted, the man said he was upset with the wait at the ER. And on Saturday, 12:15 a.m., a car on East Main was stopped and the driver was arrested on suspicion of a DUI. 9:34 a.m. a report was taken East Main and Bennett Street of a man acting crazy, running in and out of traffic. When contacted, he said he was from Florida and was told not to beg for money in the city. Not 2:34 p.m. a report was taken from a woman who was making people uneasy. When contacted, she and the man that she had been with using drugs earlier, but they were no longer under the influence. 4:08 p.m. a car backed into another caller's car. 7:34 p.m. a report was taken in Nevada County Fairgrounds where a food vendor, where a man was having seizures. Medic assistance was declined. 8:52 p.m. a report was taken a black Cadillac was doing donuts at an Old Weaver Truck and Auto building on Idaho Maryland Road, and his car hit something and might have the left front end damaged. 9:07 p.m. 3 callers from the address 1000 block of Sutton Way. Calls were made with no one on the line. 9:33 p.m. a report was taken from business in 100 block of East Main Street. The man passed out who had medical condition now seemed aware of his surroundings. 10:15 p.m. another 14 calls came from the 1000 block of Sutton Way. No one on the line, and management seemed to straighten out the problem. And on Sunday, 12:35 a.m., a report that almost a dozen people fighting on 2nd block of Mill Street. 12:50 a.m., a report was made that a drunken woman had attacked someone and ran out of a door on the 300 block of North Church Street. Police arrested her and took her to Wayne's World on suspicion of misdemeanor batter of a spouse or former spouse with a whopping $750 bail. 1:07 a.m. a report was a complaint of drunk men talking very loud about how drunk they were. They were contacted and told to tone it down. 2:44 a.m. a report was taken in car burglary, and then police arrested a Grass Valley man at 13,000 block of Ridge Road on suspicion of drunken and disorderly conduct, and he was released on a whopping $750 bail. That's it for the Police Blotter. Now thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got them. You like international style lunches? They got them. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In today's local news headlines, Grass Valley police subdue knife-wielding man. And thousands taken by utility bill scam. And C. Jane Dew's Women's Conference brings a world-class lineup to Grass Valley for 2012. In a story written by and released by the Grass Valley Police Department, the police responded to a report of a man knife-walking in 200 block of West Main Street. The results was an arrest. Approximately 12:35 p.m., Grass Valley Police Dispatch received a call that a white male adult was walking along the 200 block of West Main Street and seemed to be cutting his wrist. Police units arrived at the scene and they cordoned off a 2 square blocks. Well, they looked for over a 2 square block area, located the man. Within minutes, the subject was located by the Chase Bank, South Church and Neal Street. The officers confronted him and asked him to drop his knife, but he refused to comply. Recognizing the potential threat to public safety, officers shot him with a taser. "Don't tase me, bro," and effectively subdued the male without further incident or harm. His name was Daniel Paul Garcia III, 26 years old, out of Olivehurst, California. He's currently facing charges for willfully resisting or obstructing police officers and under the influence of a controlled substance. No police officers or citizens were injured or harmed as a result of the incident, and Grass Valley Police are requesting for any information, if you have any information about what this guy was up to, 477-4600. That's 477-4600. Out of Madison, Wisconsin, as much as President Obama wants your vote, he's not actually offering to pay your monthly bill. But thousands of Americans have been persuaded otherwise, fallen victim to the fast-moving scam that seems to be claiming a lot of people to be part of an Obama administration program to help pay utility bills in the midst of a scorching summer. Scheme spread quickly across the nation recent weeks with help from victims who unwittingly shared it on social media sites, and information like their Social Security, credit card information, and your routing numbers at their banks. No one knows who's behind it, said Catherine Hutt, a spokesperson for the Council of Better Business Bureaus out of Arlington, Virginia. But they seem to be very concerned about it. People from all corners of the country reported being duped: New Jersey to California, Wisconsin to Florida, and all parts in between. Scam benefits from being cleverly executed and comes at a time when air conditioners in much of the country are running around the clock, and there's a lot of money being spent out there. So people think that they're going to get these things paid. They give them all their information, and then the fraud people just empty their bank accounts. And so if you get one of these in the flyer, or you get approached on a telephone call, just make sure do not give them any of your information. Victims are told that they're told to provide their information and account numbers and all that stuff. So they give you a fake bank account number that's initially accepted, and when the payments are processed hours or days later, the fake number is caught and rejected. But by then, they've turned over their information, and the con artists are dipping into their bank accounts and steal their identity in some cases. There's no way to accurately measure how many people have been affected, but this one feels like it's pretty widespread, and I've heard it on the radio several different places, so yeah, this is a big one. And out of Grass Valley, California, on July 16, 2012, C. Jane Doe, the award-winning multimedia production company, has decided to announce that Martha Beck, known as one of the best-known life coaches in America and best-selling author and O Magazine columnist, will join the keynote speaker lineup at 3rd Annual Passion into Action Women's Conference, October 12th through the 14th in Grass Valley. One of the only world-class conferences held in a small American town will host Martha along with Frances Moore Lapp, a best-selling author, and co-founder of Small Planet Institute and activist Gloria Felt, former CEO of Planned Parenthood and best-selling author and activist, Holly Near, award-winning singer and songwriter, and teacher and activist Sista Monica. Award-winning singer-songwriter Osprey Oriel Lake, founder president of Women's Earth and Climate Caucus, author and activist, and Lisa Curverist, didn't have a picture of her, entrepreneur, author, co-founder of Rural Renaissance Network, and Chi Yvonne Lena, World Pulse correspondent, and Rhiannon Tomtitian and Madison Vorva, Girl Scouts, founders of Project Orange and 2011 Browser Youth Award winners. Along with riveting keynotes, Passion into Action offers 30 workshops and 2 optional pre-conference intensive, one led by the White House Project, ignites the leadership of women in business and politics, and seconds hand on media tools training led by media and entertainment producer and expert Elisa Krissinger and Janine Gista. And the Passion into Action Conference creates a space for women to meet, network, and explore areas, identify their passions, and support a passion and collaborate, and more. I'm not sure if this here is from this year. It might have been a previous one, this picture. Most importantly, PIA provides workshops, tools, and access to experts and cutting edge in the field. And Elisa Parker does a great job on this. The event showcases real women with real solutions, mixed local and non-local female leaders, visionaries, artists, celebrities, and female empowerment in all its forms. This inspired gathering of hearts and minds creates a space for women to tap into their passions and through action make them reality. The Passion into Action Conference specifically was designed for women in rural communities and small towns. These are areas where little steps can lead to bigger changes at a rapid pace. By empowering women in small towns, we see community members who are vested on personal level and who are actively shifting the balance not only of women leadership in their communities, but are effectively positive change in government, sustainability, and their local economies, improving their lives and others. If you want more information on this, it's passiontoaction.tv or contact info@cjanedo.com. October 12th through the 14th, 2012, Grass Valley Veterans Memorial Auditorium, Holiday Inn Express, and Center for the Arts. See Jane Do is a social change organization, redefines media for women and power of story to create positive change. They capture the stories and everyday women doing extraordinary things and provide tools to turn passion into action. They currently offer a radio program sponsored by KVMR Radio, Nevada City. In addition, they have an annual conference and current stories into action events, participate in launching regional PIA conferences across the country. In 2012, CJ&Do also launched regional workshops and online webinar series to provide tools to help support women to turn their passion into action. And that's it for our local news today. We'd like to thank Amy Goodman, Reuters, Associated Press, Ubinet, and local law enforcement, and others for the sourcing of our news, and you for watching. Due to a complaint from a local newspaper, we will no longer be using their reporting local stories except for facts of news, as we abide by fair use of news. Understand, we might do similar stories of local news as news facts are public domain. Remember, we are only visual video news media in Nevada County, and we are free for you to watch 7 days a week, and we appreciate that. If you have local stories and would like to have them aired on our news, please give us a call or email us with limited stories, 750 words, a couple pictures, and we'll see what we can do. Please leave us a contact. You can email us at grassvalleytelevision@gmail.com. You can watch this broadcast, Comcast Cable, NCTV Channel 11 in Nevada County, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, 10:30 Saturday, and 8 p.m. Sunday. Also in Truckee and Alta Sierra and Suddenlink, Channel 16. We're on NCTV's Digital Media Center, NevadaCountyTV.org, and GVTV.org. And don't forget, Grass Valley Television plays 24/7 on the net, grassvalleytelevision.com. We post to Facebook, YouTube, Blip.tv, and many other podcast sites. We have RSS feeds, free iTunes podcast. Just search under video podcast, GVTV News. We are happy the NCDMC has moved, and it's time for content again. And Grass Valley Television also videotapes local events around Nevada County. If you have a need for video and want to contact us, Grass Valley Television, gmail.com, 530-362-8889.